Good afternoon. And I'm back. So again, as I said, we're playing catch up. So I'm going to go ahead and do what technically these articles are intended to do. We release and then we renew. So as always, if you didn't catch the last video, my name is Rich Pacheco. I'm here with Unity of Northeast Pennsylvania, a positive path for spiritual living, as we continue our spiritual practice for 2021 of Lent. And the book we are using is Release and Renew. It's a publication through unity.org, which feel free to go and check it out. So with that being said, let's start with our first release. And you can see that in the bottom of our screen is I Release My Darkest Fears. These articles are written by Reverend Bill Englehart. He's a writer, speaker in Southern California. So let's start with the I Release My Darkest Fears. In childhood, my darkest fear included the fear of the dark. I was told, do not be afraid. Yet fear was there. Darkness felt very much like the unknown. My room had an electric heater with coils that glowed bright orange, illuminating the entire room. The glow was eerie, but it was also comforting. That glow made everything look different, but then again, everything was the same. It was as if orange lenses were put over my eyes. Seeing everything with an orange hue, the world took on a happier tone and my fear abated. Nothing really changed in the outer world. The only change was the way I saw and perceived the world. I learned to no longer fear the darkness, but fear of the unknown has been harder to release. The inevitable ups and downs of life brought fear to the surface. Could I face these down the same way I faced down fear of the dark, by seeing them differently? I found I could do just that. When faced with the new fears, I perceive them differently, and if seeing them through a different colored lens, and also the lens of faith. And from Matthew 1:20, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid. And from Luke 1:30, do not be afraid, Mary. So I remember the quotes from before where through the Bible I was told that, and this can be inaccurate, I've never really went to really investigate whether this is true or one of those things you hear in the Bible that aren't there, which is that the Bible says do not fear 365 times, which many people took as it represented that it was 365 days of do not fear. So when we're centered in, we know that fear is an emotion that comes up. We know that it's there and it's going to come up. And in some cases, it's a good thing. It's the temporal mind or the ego mind placing a barrier to say, hey, hold on, there may be danger ahead. And there may be nothing, and maybe the stories we're telling ourselves. Trust me, this was a week that I told myself a lot of stories. And, you know, in reality, I had to get past it myself by releasing the power that that fear had over me. And in turn, I was able to see the light. I was able to move forward. I was able to ask for help, and I could ask for guidance. And that's what the important part was. But I first had to release that fear. So today we release our fear, our darkest fears, whatever it is. You know, if it's something that happened in the past and you still have that fear, realize that that past is gone. The only place it lives is still in your mind. If we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, of course, that's a natural fear. It's a natural anxiety. But again, the only place that fear happens is in the mind. I know with Stoicism, sometimes the belief is, what is the worst thing that could happen to you? Well, now that you know what it is, get over it. And it's an easier said than done. But in reality, we start to do things and a fear comes up. So there's that momentary pause of, why am I doing this? But if we center ourselves in, and sometimes just go into a small prayer or meditation just to affirm that the power of this fear has nothing to do with me, I can move forward in faith. Sometimes that's just enough to let you inhale and just exhale and move forward. So now that we've released my darkest fear, let's look at what we're renewing. So I am renewing the strength and courage of my heart. Fear can be overwhelming and at times has driven me to despair and paralysis. That conditions were exacerbated when I dwelled on the worst case scenario. So here we are, we talked about how Stoicism actually calls for you to look at the worst case scenario so that you already know what's going to happen, you expect it, and you can move forward. But let's move forward with his talk. Nearly 40 years ago, I started to record every challenging situation that sparked fear and anxiety. When the situation resolved, I would go back and record the results. It was astonishing that all the worst case scenarios I had envisioned never came to fruition. That doesn't mean, however, I didn't have to face the challenge. Over the decades, I faced many, as we all do. Remarkably, without paralysis of fear being at the forefront of my consciousness, I was able to deal with whatever arose: job, relationship, faith, health, family, and move through these situations and circumstances. I look back and remind myself it is all going to work, not just as it has over the decades. Knowing this, I have renewed strength and courage. And his verse for this, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. There's a song I actually wanted to bring at one point, and it's I'm a Conqueror. Well, actually, it's just called Conqueror. And it uses that exact verse to remind you that you're more than a conqueror. You're more than an overcomer. You already are in the place of your best and divine order if you allow it to come through you and get out the way. And it's our ego that we want to get out of the way. You know, I talk about this constantly from a saying I did, and I love that my wife actually says, yeah, he said that for me, is that need to be right. And the saying kind of paraphrased was, if never let the need to be right overshadow you becoming the true and best person you are. I would rather be wrong. And it's, again, most of the times when we are afraid to be wrong, it's because our darkest fears are following it, saying, no, 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 if you don't do it this way, and you create something in your mind. So today, renew your strength and courage of your heart. Allow your heart space to take you to the right place. Be centered in this divine mind, as we say, as this source. In God, whatever it is that for you is comfortable. Center into that moment and be still and listen. And know that that fear is normal. We're having a human experience. We are going through the game called life. And there are times when this emotion will arise. And sometimes it is for our benefit. And sometimes it's not. You know, I love, one of my teachers once said, well, if you want to know how fear can benefit you or not, it's the difference between seeing a tiger in front of you and you going, hold on, what's going on? And me going, hey, kitty, kitty, and wonder why I'm in heaven now. I thought it was funny, but it was true. You know, fear has its place, but it's how you use that fear and what happens after you feel that emotion. That you make a split decision, and that decision usually, if it's done in faith and in its true divine inspiration, you'll find the right answer. So today, once again, not only do I want you to release my darkest fear, I also want you to renew the strength and courage of your heart in the affirmation. And just do something you fear and try it. If there's something you needed to do today or yesterday and you've been afraid to do it, maybe it's a business you wanted to start. Maybe it's, you know how they say, a side hustle. You wanted to write a book or do something and get it out there. I want you to go ahead and let go of what could happen and move into making it happen. As always, if no one else has told you, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And starting today, I want you to see the divinity in you, even when fear rises its big head. Okay? So with that, I will see everybody tomorrow. Again, tomorrow we have our Palm Sunday celebration, as well as Lee coming in to talk about the power of will. And hopefully we will also have our play for tomorrow as well on wisdom. Followed by next Friday is our Good Friday service. And next Sunday will be our Easter Sunday service. So again, just inviting quickly. Hope everything is well with you.